What up, people? What's good? Salute.
Yes, sir.
Yo, what's good, everybody? Salute to the tribe. We're hip hop and comics and hip hop. We're a niche channel. And reserved for the best is super dope. I do sell comics. Check me out on Instagram at 6th_element_comics. Yeah, because comic books are the sixth element of hip hop. What up, Stu? What's good, man? What's good, Corey? What's good, Slade? What up, y'all? Sixth element of hip hop. Y'all in the right place. I'm your host, Reno Noir. This is my co-host, Stu Dog. Stu, what's good?
What's good, man? Shout out to Corey Adrian in the building. Oh, man.
Mi familia.
Slade. I know Slade. Slade. Shout out to
We're about to get into that. Sada. So hopefully Sada will be here.
I know, yeah.
She probably I know.
We don't get that. We don't get a Reno or Stu.
Nope, we just get Reno and Stu, the dynamic.
Yeah, that's all we. Yeah.
We gotta share a thing. We share a thing. We just get one.
Yeah, we share. No, we don't get. Yeah,
Sada gets universe. Multiple. Right.
Yeah, she get on universe.
Slade, we're gonna get into that tonight. I'm gonna break it all the way down to the gritty nitty, because I got to play an advanced copy, and I don't mean the shitty PC port that just came out yesterday. We're gonna talk about that fucked up.
A lot of complaints about the PC port. Yes, sir.
Problems. Jedi Survivor review. But honestly, though, all in all that shit aside, this is clearly the best Star Wars game I think that we've ever gotten. And that's,
the
Battlefront. I don't even count that. I don't even count Battlefront, bro. I count like Knights of the Old Republic, 2. What else? What's up? The Empire, Force Unleashed, Force Unleashed 2. And obviously
1 and 2 was good. They were really good.
Those were phenomenal.
Yeah, those are great. They need to do an HD remaster on Unreal Engine 5. Not 4. If you can hear me, EA. Not 4. Unreal Engine 5. If you'd have did this game in Unreal Engine 5, this would have been game of the year.
Well, Stu, I don't know, man.
Cheap.
No, they didn't go cheap. They didn't go cheap now.
They don't want to develop for UE5. Not yet,
listen,
anyway.
Nah, because it's not this game is the best looking game to date. This is the game that finally I understand the new gen gap, right? This is the PS5 Xbox Series. We're finally seeing the real gap. Like it definitely looks a lot better than the last gen.
We're finally seeing 4K. We're finally seeing games
right
in 4K, period, point blank. We should have been got games on P4 and Xbox Series X. We should have got those in 4K, but we didn't. And we forget.
We're happy to have them now.
Right, because those consoles could take advantage of Unreal Engine 4, and they really didn't push 4 on that, man. So now, you're right. This is the best looking Star Wars game we've gotten to date, and I'm glad we got it. It's a dope ass T-shirt, man.
Outcast.
Yeah, Outcast. And you're right. I had to agree with you on that. But they should have. It's a lot they could have did with it, man, that they didn't do. As far as development, I mean, I don't have any complaints about the game, but I do wish that a lot more development companies would start using UE5 because these systems can handle it. And I don't know why. Yeah. I mean, I know why. That's going deep in the weeds. Yeah, I don't want to go deep in the weeds on it.
No, because
I will say it's a lot about cost. Yeah, and then bringing over the new software, paying for it, and all that. Like, I get it, but
it'll get there. We'll get there. But at least we know where we're headed. And I saw this first person shooter game.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Did you see that shit looks like it looks real? Like it looks like
that's UE5. That's UE5.
That's Unreal 5. That shit looks like a real video footage. This is the shit when I was a kid. Like when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, we used to talk about, one day it's gonna be like playing a movie. Like that was our goal. Like we knew one day video games would be like playing a movie. like live. Like I knew it was headed there. We knew that even as a little kid, even in Super Nintendo days. But when they started coming out like TurboGrafx 16 and Jaguar and all these home systems like that, and they started getting towards, like some real capabilities, man, I knew it. I knew this is where we were headed. When we got Sega CD put out a game called Sewer Shark that came with the Sega CD console, and I got that. And Sewer Shark literally was a video. It was like you remember that video game Dirk the Daring? What was it called? Dungeon Lair,
Dragon's Lair.
Dragon's Lair.
Yeah.
And it was like a cartoon, and you just watched the cartoon, but you had to hit the button at the right time.
Yeah, I still play those. Now, remember they came out with a hologram. It was a 3D hologram. It looked like a real hologram, and there was like it was a cowboy, and he kept going through different time. He had a time machine. He kept going through different time periods. It was just like Space Ace and Dragon's Lair, but it was 3D. It was revolutionary for its time. Even the way it was set up, it looked like a 3D hologram, like something out of Star Wars.
Right.
The game you're talking about, I don't know if we can probably show it on here, but if you can punch it up, it's called Unrecord.
Yeah.
And that's the one. That looks real. That's UE5. That's UE5.
Yeah.
And that game is made in UE5. And that's what I'm talking about. That's somebody pushing a system to its limits. You know what I mean? And if you got a PC, you're really in for a treat.
Yeah.
And when I first saw that, I was blown away.
Check this shit out. I'm gonna run it for y'all. Check this out, y'all. I'm gonna give y'all a taste because I don't want Boob Tube to knock me out. So we'll give you a little sample here. Just a little taste.
If we talk through it, we gotta talk through it.
What we talking about? We're gonna talk through it. All right, here we go. So this is guys, this is a video game. Okay, this is not a video camera. This is a video game. Let's keep that. Let's get that clear. All right. And that's what we're talking about here. These are the graphics. This is the next generation shit. It's a video game.
That's a video game. That is not a
video game.
Video. Yes, that is not a video.
It's a video game. This is all graphics. Shit looking like video footage. For real.
Yeah, man, it's called Unrecord. Went down. This is interesting. When they first showed this, people thought it was a real video. And the developers had to come on and tell them, like, no, this is a game, and we're developing it for all platforms except for the Switch. But like we're developing.
You see the shaky, not Switch, but the camera shake. Yeah, I don't think the Switch is gonna handle it, but. Dude, that shit looks mad real. They even blurred it out. That's how realistic it looks for YouTube. They had to blur it out.
Yeah, they blurred out the faces. Yeah.
I mean, this is scary, honestly, man. It's scary that games are gonna get like this because, like,
we couldn't wait. It's like you said, Reno. We used to dream like, I can't wait for games to look like the cutscenes.
I knew, it was gonna look like the cutscenes, right?
Yeah, look at that.
I was like, man, it's gonna be like. I didn't know how, but I knew one day it would be like playing a movie. And I didn't know how because I knew that you couldn't like literally have actors doing the shit, blah, blah, blah. But it's ways to do it, man. And I never thought that it would be literally just the graphics getting that dope, that it would literally look like. I figured somehow they'd have to incorporate live actors or something, but no, guys, this is not actors. This is not video footage. This is literally graphics. That's graphics. And you can tell. I mean, you can tell. You can look there's certain stuff where it's not totally finished, and you can see little areas of blurry detail and stuff like that. I mean, you can tell if you look close. And I don't know if you guys can tell looking from the small image, but if you blow it up, it's called Unrecord Trailer 4K. New photorealistic body cam game. So basically the idea is that you're wearing a body cam and you're it's first person shooter, but really it's a body cam and there's a hostage and here's where you can kind of tell. Here's where it gets real video game right here. Oh, there it is. And so yeah,
I know I watched my version on IGN. They probably got a longer one, but
yeah.
I when I first saw that, I was blown away too.
Incredible, incredible, incredible. Yeah, that's how it's. Yeah, exactly. That's a game, and that's coming. So that's where we're headed. But this shit, this Jedi, man, this Star Wars game, honestly, man, it's the best thing I've seen, out right now. And guys, we are doing DC Power Hour after I review this game. I want to do this review this game, and then we're gonna talk about some DC things. And I got some great hip hop content too. We're gonna get into Stu. There's some cool shit going on with Tupac. We're gonna talk about, and Slade said real quick. He says, "Stu, I am with you. We need more games in Unreal Engine 5." And I
It do.
think
I
it
mean,
does, man. We really do. They
but
just need to start
and
doing everything
yeah,
in
in his
Unreal 5,
defense,
and they
man,
will
yeah, and
eventually.
Slaves, yeah, and Slaves defense and rocking out with you too. Um, that's I'm a gamer. I play a lot of video, and that's just how I feel. I feel when they come out with these engines, they come out with them to take advantage of the new hardware. But the
Hmm.
video game companies and the developers are lazy. And Sony said it best when they came out with PS3. We made a system that had a unique interface of hardware that would work with the software to give us a great gaming experience. And everybody wanted the simplest, easiest thing possible. But that's
Right.
this next generation of story writers, storytellers, movie producers. And they want the easy way out. They want all the money. They want the easy way out, and they want to give you the least amount possible, but get the most
For you.
back.
Right.
Sometimes you got to put some work in.
It, and I think that with the Star Wars game, they really did not cheat us. They didn't skimp. They didn't hold back. They gave us everything and their capabilities. And but I will say, at first, I was afraid. I was a little worried. I kept thinking, like, how could Respawn follow up on such a dope game? Like
Dope
Star Wars
game.
Jedi Fallen Order was peak.
Yes, it was.
Or but then I spent so many nights playing this, this sequel, this new version, finding out how they got it right, and Cal Kestis grew strong, and he's like more manly now. He was a little, but and I learned, how to get along, and so now we're back in outer space. And all right, listen. The point is that with vastly expanded combat options, bigger, more maps, more open world maps. It's a lot more open world, vastly more abilities to play with, and enough collectible stuff, to fill a Carillion star freighter. And Star Wars Jedi Survivor is in many ways the Batman Arkham City to Fallen Order's Arkham Asylum, right? And much like the Arkham games did for Batman, nothing else convincingly captures playing as a Force user wielding a lightsaber quite as well as this game. And I mean, even compared to the original, the first game. Stop that with the camera. Especially considering that there's no reason not to go back and play Fallen Order before starting Survivor if you haven't. And I greatly appreciate that the sequel starts you out. And this is a big pet peeve of mine. You know how when you play a game and you just become like this god, right? You just become this badass character. And then the sequel comes out. And for some reason, your character, the main character's caught amnesia, or he's lost his powers, or my powers are gone, or I lost all my armor, or they have some stupid excuse why you got to start it at scratch again. And I really hate that, because I want the game to
Yeah.
be a progression, right? So if I'm at this level, let's start there and go further. And I love that about this game, bro. No corny amnesia, none of that. It starts you out with most of the powers and upgrades that Cal had already acquired in the last game. And and that gimmick, to make you relearn how to double jump or force push, or and no Jawas snuck up and stole away the climbing claws that make scaling walls easier, and all the cool tools and stuff, or the scomp link, and that tells BD1 hack thing to hack things, and all the cool abilities that he acquired over the first game. Outside of having to earn back your healing canisters and life and force bar extensions, and this more or less Cal is where we left him 5 years prior. And Slade said he just went through Fallen Order again on easy about a month ago. So I like the fact that you can use more force powers. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so yeah, so we're already off to an exciting running start when things kick off with a brief caper on Imperial Coruscant that calls back to A New Hope before making a thrilling escape. And so you're quickly thrown right into force pushing stormtroopers off the edges and, you know, chaining together movement tricks, you know, like wall running, climbing, jumping, flipping, swinging, and all that shit, sliding down ramps. And that's just, you know, this is just the beginning of the game. And you know, the sort of Spider-Man style grapple, which only works on pre-designated points, but is introduced right before you leave Coruscant. And you know, the unlocks keep you, you know, keep coming from there on, you know, at a very rewarding pace. I think it's done really well, and it makes sense. And when you unlock the midair dash ability to pair with your double jump, that's when, you know, it really starts rolling, and you really start, you know, the mobility just takes off, and you can cover a lot of crazy distances without touching the ground. It's dope. Changing directions twice to reach things around corners, bro. I had to completely rethink what was possible. You know, and it's not as though Survivor invented the air dash, right? But Respawn makes excellent use of it, and it just they make it very fun. Further flexing the Titanfall, you know, muscles, and you know, moving around is definitely satisfying, but the lightsabers, man, are of course are the stars of the war, right? Survivor basic gives us, you know, excellent dueling from Fallen Order by several notches, you know, and with 5 different fighting stances. You know, the lightsaber combat that are brilliantly animated to create some of the flashiest and fiercest Star Wars melee battles that I've ever seen in gaming. Okay. They're not fucking around, dude. And you don't even have to be all that good at nailing and timing all the combos and strikes and parries. It dodges, you know, and you know, it just looks fun. You know, he looks smooth. He looks cool. Like, you don't have to be an expert at it to look cool. And that's a really great point. You know, and you can just carve through stormtroopers instead of like having to beat them like my lightsaber's a bat, you know, with 7 hits, you know, and you slice through. It's really cool. You know, and the fact that the arms and the legs can now sometimes get severed and come off of the stormtroopers and other humanoids, not just droids, and creatures, so who get shredded. It makes it feel more gratifying, more realistic, more satisfying, more like I'm really wielding a lightsaber, and you feel really powerful during the kill animations and stuff. And you know, after fucking around with the single and the double bladed and the dual wielding stances that carry over from Fallen Order, I settled on the 2 new ones. Right, you've got the Kylo Ren inspired crossguard style longsword, broadsword. It's like a really long, and then you've got the hybrid blaster saber stance. And you know, that answers the question: wouldn't it be cool if Han Solo was a Jedi? So and the crossguard sort of treats your lightsaber as a slow, heavy broadsword weapon, you know, for like big power strikes and stuff. So it's obviously it's slow, you know, but you'll, you know, stun your enemy to the floor. And then of course the blaster one, you got the sidearm that sort of you can just pull out and just, you know, take out small enemies and shit, you know, without having to close the gap and basically and you know, it makes short work of your flamethrower troopers and jetpack guys and packs of, you know, animals or creatures or whatever. And for, you know, others who like to get in close and stuff like that, you've got the blades, but it's quite literally a blast, man. And of course, once I unlocked the ability to throw my crossguard saber to hit enemies a little farther away, I felt, you know, like either stance was capable of taking down just about any enemy when it needed, you know, and when settled for. You know, for the thing. And basically these sabers pair nicely with the expanded set of force powers that you now get, which is dope too. And they allow you to do things like pull in like a whole group of enemies at once, because he's become really powerful. and you can like pull them in and do like a spinning slash and cut them all down like mowing the lawn, bro. It's dope. And you can only equip 2 of the 5 stances at any given time, which at first did seem artificially limiting. Like, why would he not? It's a stance, and it is. But when you think about it, but I came to appreciate it because it did give my version of Cal more personality as a fighter, right? Because you kind of create, you can give him any kind of hairstyle now. You can give him facial hair now. He can, have a goatee. He's got more than just the poncho, so you can totally, kind of create and make him sort of your own type of character. And so it's just good for customizing. And you can, of course, swap out your stances at any meditation circle, just like anything else, like in the first game. But especially in the early hours, you have so many skills points to go around and only one free respec. So, and then each stance has its own skill tree, so you're encouraged to sort of specialize in one, because if you just sort of try to do all of them, you'll get spread thin, and you won't really master any one of them. So it's better to sort of master 2 that you really like than to try to wield all of them.
Right. And it gives a game more replay value, because now you can say, I'll go back and master 2 more,
right,
until I get them all, and I'm quite sure there's a trophy for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yes, right. And it's a story that does the job, and it needs to do very well. It does. It gets you from one action scene to the next early on, and quite literally by accident, Cal finds himself in a race to locate what's effectively a map to lost treasure planet. And that's very much in keeping with the idea of him as the sort of Nathan Drake, of the Star Wars universe, because that's kind of what these games are, in a way. And it leads to plenty of excuses to visit ancient, old and abandoned, at least, puzzle chambers where you have to, use your wits and the Force, and sort of, an expanded range of gadgetry to solve them. And importantly, for a game like this, it seldom feels like there's a lot of time pressure to, rush to the next objective. So, taking a detour on a side quest to investigate, missing prospectors in a mine, find out what went wrong in a droid factory, or, maybe investigating like, different rumors that you're, presented with by the locals. And it doesn't feel like you're neglecting your responsibility to save the galaxy, or do the main storyline. And it's been, I think for me anyway, it's been a long time since we got a great single player third person Star Wars action game. And the reason I kind of don't care for Battlefront is it's third person. I'm not a third person it's first person rather. I'm not a first person shooter guy. I like third person games. I like to see, my character. So Battlefront,
I'm like you, yeah. I didn't like the third person. I mean, first person.
Yeah.
But the new one gave you a third person view, which is why I love the new one.
I like Battlefront if it had a great story mode.
The new one does. The new
it's
one. If you play you got to play the new one. Yeah, it's short. But I also played. I like flying the ships. Right, that was the one reason why I played Battlefront. I never really played too much as the troop. I always flew the ships. I like flying the ships.
Mm-hmm.
That was my
that's fun. That's fun. There's a couple of Star Wars games where you fly shit.
The TIE Fighter one is really, that is amazing. I love that game. I play that a lot. I loved it. Squadrons.
Yeah.
Squadrons. Yeah, I love Squadrons, man. I play a lot of Squadrons.
But Jedi Fallen Order, makes up for a lot of lost time, right? You got a strong cast, right? That really sells a dark story while keeping things fun and loyal to Star Wars lore. And fast, challenging combat mixes with energetic platforming and decent puzzles and diverse locations to explore. And basically, it's just an all-around amazing game. Despite being a largely enjoyable adventure, my main issue with the story is that, nearly every big twist is foreshadowed so heavily that it was only ever a matter of when a reveal would happen, not if. It kind of I kind of like knew was going to happen. You know, it was really predictable, but the identities of the main villains are secret as of now and shall remain unspoiled here. I'm not gonna, but they are pretty easy to see coming a light year away. But in any case, you know, at least they're written and acted with enough depth that, you know, they don't feel like retreads of anyone Cal's faced before or from any other mediums or any other shows or movies or games or anything. And neither is a two-dimensional Sith Lord who somehow has returned. But there's more to them than that. As Survivor successfully prioritizes character over plot for the most part. And I mean, I really enjoyed the cast in Fallen Order. Back, you know, and they're back, and that's great. You know, to go through those motions. And this time, Cameron Monaghan, you know, is Cal. He's not so easily outshined by the crew of the Mantis. You know, because his motivations are about more than simply fighting the Empire now. Because now it's about whether he can live a life where he's, you know, something more than a resistance fighter. You know, let go of his guilt and find a home that's safe. You know, after his, his path after escaping Order 66 is contrasted against what could have been if he, you know, had different priorities and made different choices. So that, you know, gives him a lot more character growth than he had as a purely traumatized fugitive learning to be a Jedi. And his decisions, you know, have more weight to them, you know, making him much more realized and, you know, a better protagonist this time around, more, you know, full, more rich, you know, character. And naturally, BD1 never left Cal's side. BD1 is my favorite Star Wars droid. I think definitely like him better than BD8, BB8. And you know, but the rest of the crew are all given very human reasons for their parting ways after Fallen Order and why they're, you know, now coming back together all these years later. Grease's lovable cantankerousness made him a favorite, and he's happy to deliver more of that stuff along with, you know, some sage wisdom, you know, while carefully avoiding his overuse of his grab some seat catchphrases as he pilots the Mantis. And so Marin returns with a new look to immediately rekindle some of the romantic chemistry that there, you know, had between herself and Cal. And so, and her more casual attitude after having traveled the galaxy makes her even more endearing this time around. And, you know, though she's less of a constant presence due to Cal no longer needing a mentor, really. And, you know, the ever intense Siri is more powerful than ever, and that power is definitely displayed memorably in one of this game's big action moments that I won't spoil. But aside from this dope cast of colorful alien side characters, including an ancient protocol droid with a loose screw and a goofy sea slug with a reverse diving suit and a thick Scottish accent, the other new member of the group is Bodhi, and he's another roguish mercenary type who, a lot like Cal did in Fallen Order, initially comes across somewhat blandly, you know, as the two bro it up and establish the friendship that they've, you know, struck up fighting the Empire together. As his sympathetic backstory is sort of fleshed out, however, he does become a little more interesting of a companion, you know, character, and getting, you know, to fight alongside allies on certain story missions this time around is dope. I think especially watching Marin use her Nightcrawler-esque teleportation to bamf around the battle and just pick off targets, you know what I'm saying, riding coattails leads to Jedi Survivors, some of the dope, you know, action sequences and stuff. And you know, they can't be killed or downed in action, so there's no management or babysitting that you have to do with your teammates, with your companions. They don't die, so you don't have to like keep them alive or any of that shit. But if you want to, you can have them prioritize an especially annoying raider to sort of keep them busy while you know, thin out you know, the other ranks. So you can sort of send them off on shit. So that's cool. Kind of what's that game? Siege, Rainbow Six type shit. Yeah, which boils down to you pushing a button when prompted, but their banter and companionship definitely liven up the scenes in a way that BD1's adorable little bleeps and boops, couldn't do alone. Um, Another thing this game sort of takes advantage of the fact that it takes place between a midpoint between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. That's another cool factoid, I guess, about this game, the timeline. And of course, with these new friends, we've got the new enemies, and it made sense in my head, at least, in following a whole game of battling mostly Imperial Inquisitors, that it's a relief to see that the Empire's role here is more in the background. Their parade of trooper types and security droids are mostly here to provide variety after you've been fighting the main enemy army of raiders and their salvaged separatist battle droids. And this is like sort of the height. This is before Luke and them blow up the Death Star. This is after Darth Vader is now running around with the Empire doing shit. This is sort of the height of the Empire right now. And and so it's a clever way to plausibly merge the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy enemies and characters into one same game. And it does take advantage of the fact that of this timeline, and that's a really cool factor that I think makes the game just that much more enjoyable for real Star Wars fans. And you got all the beasts, definitely. All the little monsters resemble what you saw in Fallen Order. The graphics are way better. The detail is way better. It's more crisp. The resolution is better. It's more smooth. The frame rate is even better. But no matter where you go in the Star Wars galaxy, it always seems like life finds a way to make giant bugs and big angry wampas. And so it's a good mix of enemies and subtypes that builds on Fallen Order's already respectable lineup. And when I found myself in the middle of, a sort of a big fight where different factions were battling it out, any weak-minded foes that, you might want to temporarily use that force, Jedi mind trick and shit, to help you. That's really cool. And it's a great time. But on the subject of yeah, and on the subject of creatures, one of Cal's new abilities is to tame like the more non-aggressive animals and shit to be rideable mounts. So there's mounts, and you actually sort of use the force to make them, to tame them to bend them to your will and stuff. And that isn't ever used much for besides galloping across big empty areas and large, open world, areas just to get you around slightly faster than Cal could run. And basically, given that running doesn't drain his stamina, it seems that it's mostly just for the atmosphere and to make people stop asking Respawn if they can ride the animals. Just kind of like they're like, here, okay, ride them. But it looks cool, and it is pretty cool to watch the big long-legged Spammel carry you across the deserts of Jeddah. And yeah, there's really an alien camel alien called Spammel in this. But there's also a flying animal that can be used as sort of a glider, but only at very specific points. You can't just glide around everywhere, but it's cool. Not much of a game changer either, but again, it's just sort of something that they threw in, I guess, to be fun. And speaking of environments, now we've got the journey does take, it has a there's the handful of never before written of or heard of planets, or seen planets rather, some of which are expansive and include a variety of extremely different areas within them. Kobo, for instance, has everything from grasslands to swamp and underground facilities and massive crashed separatist ship. It reminds me of apart from the Old Republic online game that you can play on PC. It's got some locations like that. It's got its own version of like Cloud City. And they're far from the typical Star Wars one-note worlds like Tatooine, where the entire world for some reason is a desert, right? Or the entire world is a forest, or the entire world is like one biome. because we know on Earth there's every kind of biome, right? There's tundras and deserts and swamps and tropical and da 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 da. But it always seems like in Star Wars, a planet is just one type of biome, which is definitely unrealistic. So they don't pull that shit, which is cool. Um, and then, but um, every time I did go into a new area, I'd circle the camera, looking for the telltale signs of level designers that they leave to indicate a wall is runnable or a ceiling can be clung to or there's a crack that you can squeeze through or whatever. And by the time I was done with my 30-hour run through the story, I had trouble even remembering to use all the different abilities that I'd learned because there are simply so many. And the levels are meticulously thought out, puzzles in and of themselves. And only rarely did I come across something that I didn't feel intuitive or fair. Once I took, and all the tools at your disposal. There's not much that you're gonna, not be able to do or anything like that. And considering that this adventure is roughly equal parts combat and puzzle solving, the fact that there's such a broad selection of types works in its favor. The puzzles that dealt with directing energy beams and even painting paths are very clever and well done, on par and sharing some ideas with a lot of what we saw in God of War Ragnarok last year. It really gave me God of War Ragnarok vibes. And obviously that was game of the year. Phenomenal game. If you haven't played God of War Ragnarok, I don't know what you're doing. You're not a gamer. You got to fuck with it. It's amazing. But yeah, some involve using BD1 to launch projectiles. Um, you know, trigger remote switches. That kind of thing. And some have rolling homing bombs and stuff like that. And some use deployable balloons that you can grapple to and launch off of. And you get very creative and do a lot of cool shit. And a few of the main storyline puzzles gave me cause to really, kind of scratch my head for a few minutes, and which is pretty unique. Usually game puzzles are like really easy, but before the solution sort of sprung to mind, which was just about the right level of challenge. I liked, and they aren't groundbreaking in their design, but they are consistently fun.
Yeah, consistent. Yeah,
Yeah. But
go.
I think it's a gorgeous game. Beautifully
It
detailed,
really is. Yeah.
amazing, looks amazing. Um, yeah. And perhaps, as a result, not one of the best performing games. Okay. My PS5 playthrough saw some fairly gnarly slowdowns from the expected 30 frames per second in 4K quality mode, especially when fighting around smoke or fog. That seems to always fuck it up, which made timing by parries and dodges difficult. A little lag shit. Disappointingly, even the 1440p performance mode isn't close to holding a locked 60 frames. 60 FPS, which I like to play at. And I also saw a few crashes and bugs that forced me to quit and reload my save to progress. And this was before the day one patch. But EA has naturally promised more patches will come with improvements on all the platforms. But if history is any guide, it might take a little. And like I said, the PC port has a lot of problems already.
Mm.
That's
I keep
already been,
hearing that about the PC port. Yeah, they just.
yeah, it you know I think it was Friday. Yeah, it was yesterday. They ported they put out the PC port, and a lot of bugs, a lot of bullshit. But critics were loving the game and all that stuff, and you know all the stuff that the game had done better than the last game and all that stuff. And but most of them didn't hide the fact that EA and Respawn did an awful job with the PC port, that they might have, minced their words too much. Either that or critics hoped that Electronic Arts pre-release and or day one patch would fix most things, but unfortunately it did not. And as per the Steam reviews and the swaths of negative comments on social media, EA and Respawn needs to do a lot more than just promise weeks of fixes, for this game. At the moment, Jedi Survivor has more negative reviews than positive reviews on Steam, but the numbers have steadily improved. EA has also released a statement apologizing for the issues and explaining what could have been the reason for it. And apparently, specific desktop configurations are the main cause, including running older versions of the Windows operating system or pairing a lower performing CPU with a high end graphics card. And the latter is very common occurrence, especially in novice PC builders, gaming PC builders, especially since the prices of graphics card have recently dropped to reasonable retail rates. Because I remember when I bought mine, everything was like double.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
$500 graphics card cost me $1,000, and it
Yep.
was just ridiculous. But in any case, the situation is legitimately a worrying sign, I think, of an ongoing trend of terrible PC ports on current gen exclusive titles. We saw the same thing with Elden Ring and um what there was a Naughty Dog and Iron Galaxy Studios are working hard to bring that Last of Us Part 1 on the PC.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, Cyberpunk was shit. Yeah, that was just horrible. Cyberpunk, over 2 years after Cyberpunk came out and became the horror story of the generation for unoptimized games, the industry's biggest publishers still have not learned. It's like if you didn't learn from Cyberpunk and shit, like, what did you think that they were special? No, man, it's just, it's they're making the games for the PS5 and the new gen systems, and not, I guess, not optimizing it for PC because they're worried about the new consoles, which I get. But it appears that no backlash can force the publishers to put profit first, as opposed to delaying an unoptimized game if it can't be released in time in a fully playable state. And for that reason, Warner Bros. Discovery deserves credit. It delayed the PS4 and Xbox One versions of Hogwarts Legacy, which recent game, as well as the Nintendo Switch port, at the expense of what could have easily been more than $1 billion in sales just weeks after the game came out earlier this year. So that the same publisher also postponed Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League to next year due to public
Yeah.
backlash. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole system. No, they can't give us that.
Mm,
You got to do better than that.
mhm.
The way you had to acquire, like, it was basically a grind fest for gear.
Yeah.
And it seemed like there was no story for the game. The open world, it just seemed like it was just it hurt. It wasn't the game that they show you isn't the game that people were playing,
Right.
and you had to level up everything, guns, gear,
Right.
um, paint that you put on the gear. You had to earn all of that, then get it.
Mhm.
Now nobody's doing all that, man. We
Hell no.
respect our time. Respect our time. That's all
Respect
we
our
ask.
grind. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all we ask. Um, but Star Wars in general is
Oh,
going through some.
that's another thing too. Right? It was too much like Gotham, like
Mm.
Gotham Knights. That's what
Mhm.
turned a lot of people. It's too
What?
much like
That's
Gotham
that
Knights.
Suicide Squad?
Yeah, it kind of played like Gotham Knights.
Yeah, that
People was just turned off.
and Avengers.
Yeah, people was turned off by that.
Man, people don't like that shit. Oh, speaking of Star Wars and shit, uh Temuera Morrison, the guy that plays Boba Fett, he wants a live action spinoff for Captain Rex, who he plays, Captain Rex, because he's definitely best known for Boba Fett, but he's definitely he plays all the clones. He played Jango Fett, and he plays the clones like Captain Rex and stuff like that, and Rebels and
That would be dope. People like Rex.
yeah,
My son, he talks about Captain Rex a lot. He'd be like, "Dad, I like Captain Rex." He
yeah,
always talks about
pretty
Rex.
popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. That'd be.
He's yeah, he's pissed though. He's mad. He's mad at what they did about the Mandalorian and stuff. For sort of hijacking Book of Boba Fett and putting those last few episodes of Mandalorian and shit. And then he was supposed to return in the Mandalorian, but he says nobody called. He said nobody called. He was pissed, and he was like, they hijacked my show, and then they do their show, and they didn't even call me. He said nobody. He says, he said I was supposed to be in the Mandalorian 3, but nobody rang me. I was waiting for the phone call in New Zealand, waiting and wanting to give up. But yeah, it's he's pissed. But I mean, I don't blame him. But I don't think he said, well, that Mando guy stole a few chapters of my book. It was painful watching him turn up with some black new lethal sword and the way they turned up in my book of Boba. He just destroyed everybody. I'm sure this guy is ruining my show, but I couldn't say anything. I'm not the writer, so I have to bear it, I guess. I hate to break it to him, but those were the best episodes of your show. Yeah, that show sucked, bro. It sucked.
Definitely were. Definitely were.
It sucked. Okay. It wasn't like 100% shit by any means, but it sucked. That show sucked. I had to really like make myself like parts of it and stuff like that. But there was some cool stuff, like some of the like I'm really big fan of Cad Bane, so I really like that they had Cad Bane in it, and Black Chrysanthemum is a really dope character that I was glad that they kind of threw in these sort of more obscure characters. That was cool. But yeah, man, just what they did to Boba Fett is akin to what they did to Luke Skywalker in the sequel trilogy, in my opinion. They nerfed him. They took away his badassness. I mean, he was a badass. Boba Fett was a badass character, and they turned him into some old grandpa, like trying to. Not good. They ruined it, man. Because that whole character. I mean, Boba Fett was a mysterious, like he was dope. Like it's hard to mess up a character. Like, yeah, right.
And they did it. They found a way to do it.
They sure did. But that's my review for the game. And again, it is DC Power Hour. So for my DC fans, worry not. We're gonna get into some DC stuff here in a second. We'll sort of transition with a bit of hip hop news because your boy Tupac got a new show out. Ironically, by Alan Hughes, who got in a beef with him. Remember Pac went to jail for like 15 days in 1994 after, for assaulting Alan Hughes at the on the Menace to Society set. And so they always had beef and shit, but yeah, but he's back, man. He's doing a new 5-part miniseries called Dear Mama. Alan Hughes is telling what is arguably the most riveting, most comprehensive, deepest cutting cinematic exploration yet into the life and times of the late rap legend Tupac Shakur and his revolutionary mother, Black Panther Afeni Shakur. But Hughes is hardly just a biographer when it comes to Tupac, who died in 1996, being shot by Orlando Anderson and Keefe D and them in Vegas after they jumped on Orlando. And so the filmmaker is also a key part of the Shakur story. And it wasn't always pretty because, like I said, Alan and his twin brother and longtime directing partner Albert Hughes first encountered the New York-born, Baltimore-raised, Bay Area-schooled poet and musician in 1990 at San Francisco Waffle House when the duo met with Digital Underground. So Shock G, the Humpty Dance party outfit, who brought the pre-fame Shakur into the fold as a backup dancer and a roadie, and eventually a featured artist when he did a little verse on Same Song, that movie with Chevy Chase that was a classic with Dan Aykroyd. But the Hughes brothers who would have become Hollywood's next big things when their gritty, gripping street drama menace to society opened to raves in 1993, is still, I think, the quintessential and best hood gangster movie of all time. And it had made some short films. They had, drawn attention at the time and were expanding to music videos. And they had been hired to shoot visuals for "Throw Your Hands in the Air," which was a single from Digital Underground spinoff group Raw Fusion. And there was this kid at the end of the table, right? Just snapping on everyone, roasting everyone. The funniest dude I ever encountered, he said. It was Tupac. He said he was unknown at the time. I didn't know he had an album in the can, which was his 1991 solo debut, Tupacalypse Now. And he had a movie. He had Juice in the can, already filmed. Both of those the album and Juice was already shot. It just hadn't come out yet, so he wasn't famous, but he was about to be. And and Shakur definitely had seen the Hughes' short films, and he told Alan in the restroom that he wanted to hire them to direct his first video. And Alan said he thought he was just talking. He was like, "Yeah, okay." And still, the filmmaker was so taken with Pac's energy, man, and his personality that they made sure that he was front and center at the first start of Raw Fusion's video. And he said we waited 30 minutes until he showed up before we started rolling. And Alan, perhaps lightly, if you already know this story, he said, then began an intense friendship and working relationship. So Pac, sort of followed through with his talk and enlisted Hughes to direct his first two music videos, Trapped and Brenda's Got a Baby. The latter of which obviously made Pac a bona fide, star. Brenda's Got a Baby really put him on the map. And and then things went awry. After Shakur's acclaimed acting debut in Juice, he was kind enough. He said, Alan says he was kind enough to take a role in Menace that wasn't a starring role to help us get our movie made. Alan says, but Tupac was becoming a little unpredictable. He had mood swings. I think the pressure was getting to him, and it became pretty unpredictable at that point. So I had to let him go because it was just getting too disruptive in rehearsals. Unfortunately, after that, he caught up with me and some gang members later, and it got violent. And the Hugheses were filming a video shoot for one of the tracks off Menace's soundtrack for Spice One's "Trigger Got No Heart." And when Pac rolled up with his aforementioned affiliates, they whooped on Alan, and basically the witnesses claiming that Pac ordered the crew of almost 30 gang members to attack him, which is fucking stupid. But Hughes brothers filed an assault and battery charges against Tupac, and it was just corny as fuck. Pac did 15 days in jail, which Pac admitted to the crime on Yo MTV Raps. There's a clip of him talking about it, and you see Ed Lover like trying to cover his mouth and shit. It's funny. But yeah, now 20 years, yeah, you've seen that clip.
Yeah, I think I saw the show live. I saw it live when they did it.
Right, yeah. So, but now 20 years later, Alan has become, the artist's biographer, which the director says hasn't sat well with some of, Pac's more faithful fans. He said that there's some internet chatter and some of rabid fans or so-called fans are like, what's he doing directing this? Tupac hated him. And he said, it's like, listen, assholes, Tupac apologized several times for his actions and was looking to reconcile. We just weren't in a place where we got to physically come to that. But I'm not a petty person. I love Tupac. I take a lot of pride in our shared journey and what he became, an international icon. There's no way I'm going to ever dream of shitting on that. And I agree. I'm sure he wouldn't. But he said the only thing that I was looking for was answers and understanding, because there's too much misunderstanding when you see his image. He's such a global icon. You see him in Africa, Asia, Europe, South America. He's all over the place. I've never seen anything like it. And I didn't understand a lot. And I think there was a lot of confusion. So I was searching for the meaning to his journey, his story. And that's why I began with his mother. And still, Hughes admits, that he had some reluctance when Shakur's when Shakur's estate first approached him about directing Pac's docuseries, and there was the personal baggage, Yeah, but he also, felt spent from his 2017 HBO series, The Defiant Ones, which was focusing on the relationship between music moguls Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine. That's a fucking dope documentary. If you're into music and shit like that, it's super dope. And he said that took everything out of me. It sent me into a mental institution. He said, figuratively. Hughes. But yeah, 3 days after their meeting, Hughes agreed to do it. And so long as the focus of the piece expanded to include Pac's relationship with Afeni, the celebrated political activist and Black Panther member who struggled with drug addiction as Pac sort of rose to fame. And the series is named after Pac's 1995 hit single "Dear Mama," which paid tribute to her. And he said, when I think of one of my favorite films, The Godfather Part 2, I look at that dual narrative where you learn about the sins of the father and how they fall upon the son, and why Michael Corleone is how he is and why Don Vito got that way. Hughes says of his desire to alight the son mother relationship in Dear Mama. So if that holds true for the father, so what about the actions and thoughts of the mother, and single mothers especially? Because I was raised by a single mother, so I was interested in her story because I knew we would discover the riddle of Tupac through her. And boy, I had no idea how similar they are. Um, the docuseries spends like 5 approximately hour-long episodes exploring the parallels between the lives of Pac and Afeni, and but Hughes, offers to summarize them and basically, bring it in, and it just puts it in a very, digestible, you know, format, right down to their experiences. He says she was a poet, she was a performing artist, at as a high school student, and there's all these similar trajectories. She went to trial in 100th Center Street, a Manhattan courthouse, and he went to trial in 100th Center Street. And they were the same age when they went to trial. So there's all these interesting, intersecting twin parallels, he said. And so, the series also challenges certain narratives about Pac. And he said one with him is his obvious that he was some kind of gangster. He said, I think that's just a massive misconception about him. I don't think there was a lot known about her. We hear that she was a Panther, and we hear that she was addicted to crack and eventually found her way to recovery, but that's all we've heard. We don't know anything more. And I think it's just very thin, the narrative, when it comes to her. And still, I think music fans will want to know that the series ultimately veers far more heavily in Tupac history and lore, exploring the mind-numbing output of the hip-hop icon left behind 25 years, 4 solo albums, 1 collaborative album, 7 films, 7 posthumous album releases. He lived 8 lifetimes in 3 months. That's what the interviewee says in the first episode. And yes, Hughes does address his own history with Shakur, warts and all, in the second episode. He said, I think when we started working together, me and my brother and Tupac, the one thing that there wasn't a lack of was passion. He said, we were very loud, very passionate, and he was very loud and very passionate, very emotional. We all were, but it worked. There were no real disagreements in the early days. They started coming later. He said, when I look back now, we were all 19. We were all young Black boys in these grown man-ass jobs, and that generation before us didn't have. We would be lucky to be in college, let alone budding movie star, recording artists, and film directors. And that's a crazy, you think about that, dude. They were 19. Like, my son's 18. Like, Pac was 25 when he died.
Yeah.
That's, think about everything that like Tupac is this global icon. He was a kid. He died as he was still a kid. It's crazy. It's amazing what some people are able, or blessed to accomplish. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Bop. Oh, this is cool. The Biggie did an AI generated cover of Nas's New York State of Mind. A new artificial intelligence generated track because AI is the big. They're making AI photography, AI photo, or AI drawings, AI, TV shows, all of it. And so, but now the AI track has Biggie doing a cover of New York State of Mind, and it has the digital streets, man, and the hip hop fans are split on how they feel about the record. One person wrote, "I can't believe I just listened to 5 minutes of Biggie rapping New York State of Mind." And the other guy says, "AI just confirming that everything sounds better when it's rapped by Biggie." Another person said, "Also, this is mental." For some, they preferred the Illmatic, Nas's original's take on the track. The cadence is definitely unique to Nas. One user wrote, "Damn, I didn't realize how unique his cadence was. It don't sound right on Big." So I can play it. Y'all can
Because
hear it.
Big was real versatile, man. Like
Oh yeah,
when you go back and listen to his lyrics, Big is one of the most versatile rappers we got. Like he could rhyme off of anything on any subject matter. It didn't even matter. And when he did
right,
that Notorious Thugs, that solidified him right there.
right. Yeah. Oh, you mean the Bone song?
Yeah, when he did that Notorious
Yeah,
Thugs on his album,
yeah,
that
yeah.
was, yeah, because back then people be like, "Oh, East Coast, some of y'all can't rap to them down south beats," but he did it. He was like, "Oh, I got you. Hang on." And he rap
Mm-hmm.
with Bone Thugs because they rap, and they rap fast. Ain't nothing slow about the way they rap. And Biggie did it. He rocked to it.
It's Bone and Biggie, Biggie. It's Bone and
Yeah,
Biggie, Biggie.
that was hot. That's one of the hottest tracks on his record.
Yeah, that was joint. That was um. Yeah, that was pretty good. Um, at the
So this is
song.
so this is
Yeah,
Biggie rapping over New York State of Mind. That was AI put that together.
yeah, yeah. Hold on, I got it. Let me get it. AI put it together. AI made it. This is how it sounds. Let's check it out. Here it goes. The Mac 10 was in the glass and I ran like the cheetah with forks up in assassin. Keep the Mac up, jump others back up. The next stick, lead was hitting niggas one red. They the next flip, got a few chicks scream. My arms shook, putting up, gave another squeeze. Heard it click, yo, my shit is stuck. Try to cock it, it wouldn't shoot, now I'm in danger. Finally pulled it back and saw 2 bullets for them in the chamber. So now I'm getting to the building lobby. And it was full of children, probably couldn't see as high as I feel. Got young niggas pulling the triggers, blending fame to their name and claim some corners. Clues when I run some corners. That boy game like stick up kids, stick on the corners. 4 5 and gauges, max effects. Same niggas to get you back to back. Catch you get blacks and black. There was a snitch on the block, getting niggas locked. So get staffed to the cold boys drop. I know this track here, who said she got a smoke like swap. I don't know what the fuck they talking about. That shit sounds amazing. That shit sounds lit. That shit sounds like it's meant to be. Yo,
Yeah,
Biggie, bro, that sound like Biggie's
it
own
do.
joint.
It sound like Biggie voice. It do. It
I
do.
mean, that sound like Biggie. Sound like Biggie
But that's
wrote that shit.
scary though, man. That's scary. I
Yeah.
mean, you like you like, damn, bro. Like, but
I
I
mean,
get it. It's
listen,
lit.
guys, Biggie has never covered this song. Obviously, this is not Biggie's voice, but it's like, and it's not someone that sounds like Biggie either. This ain't Gorilla Black. This is just a AI computer that generated his voice and made him sing this song. Description bring your customers and manual bust. But yo, you gotta slide on vacation. Inside information keeps forms, niggas are racing and they wild spacing. And clocks keep as it does in my brain. I never sleep. The sleep is the cousin of death. Yo, that's just dope. I love it. It sounds crazy.
Damn, it do. It do sound crazy. Damn, bro.
All right, man. Yo, man. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we got the review out of the way. We covered a little hip hop, and I know you gotta to bounce, man, and go fight crime and stuff. But I did want to touch on some DC why Supergirl fights Zod in the Flash instead of Henry Cavill's Superman. Um, and basically how and why Zod returns in the Flash movie. And also wanted to talk about Jason Momoa says that his 50-page Aquaman 2 story treatment wasn't followed completely, and says that DC's future, basically there's a lot of badass shit coming, according to
Mm.
Momoa. Yeah. He said that he co-wrote the first story treatment for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom and the upcoming Warner Brothers DC tentpole that is sequel to the 2018's billion-dollar grossing Aquaman. He said the beautiful thing about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is me and my partner wrote the first treatment for it, and it was about a 50-page treatment, and a lot of it has to deal with me talking to the UN about what's happening with the melting ice caps. And Momoa said at the time, there's no far off galaxy coming to destroy us or aliens from another place. It's just ruining our planet, and we need to get it together and save our home. And I know a lot of people will be like, oh, that's not exciting. That's how an Aquaman fucking story would be. That's what Aquaman did. Like, he saved the earth from like the ocean and shit, tidal waves and shit like that. Like, that's what he did. And it would have made a lot of sense. But in this new interview with Men's Health, Momoa, disclosed that his story treatment for this second movie ended up being shelved during the production, and of course, they went with the more spectacular, storyline that wouldn't be in any comic book ever. But that's the reason why he said, I love directing and creating. He said, I don't want to just go like I'm acting. I'll be in my trailer. I love being able to burn for what I believe in. And I've seen some of the most shocking acting performances firsthand, and I watched them edited, and they were amazing. He said, I wish I could tell you who it was. I'm like, what the fuck? I watched this guy who had to be fucking propped up. They read the lines to him, but this motherfucker killed it when the edit came, and it was applauded for it. So, and at one point, and I was like, wow, this shit made it in the edit. And he's not saying who that is. And he did say the success of the first Aquaman took him by surprise. He said, well, to be perfectly honest, I was absolutely baffled that Aquaman was received so well. He said, I've done things that are amazing that no one sees and no one gives a shit about. And you just don't know in this business. He said, I don't go do things and think, oh, I'm going to get $1 billion on this one. I just go and do my best job. And he said, it's not that I don't care about Aquaman. It's a wonderful character. He said, but Aquaman is probably the hardest character in comic book history because he's made fun of and ridiculed, but I tried to give it heart and soul, and I'm proud of it in certain ways. Do I feel pressure for the sequel to do well? No. All I can do is give it my all, but it's in a lot of other people's hands, and we know that, Momoa. We know it's not on you, bro. But he did say about the DC Universe reboot that James Gunn has coming up. We know Cavill's not involved yet, but he said he's extremely, extremely excited about the DC future, which includes a lot of badass shit coming up, end quote. And he said, I look forward to working with Peter Safran, the CEO, said about Jason Momoa, about the Aquaman movies. He said, I look forward to working with Jason for many years to come. I would be happy for it to be in Arthur Curry's world. And when another opportunity came up, I'd find another great character for him to create. And we definitely hope that's Lobo. We want to see Momoa as Lobo. And, but yeah, man, speaking of Cavill and all of that, and Zod and why it's going to be different. Barry Allen's attempt to travel back in time in Flashpoint to save his mother affects reality as we know it, and bringing him to a universe where he hasn't, acquired access to the Speed Force and thus hasn't become the Flash yet. So in this universe, Michael Keaton's Batman has also been active for many years, and Supergirl has been kept as a prisoner for a long time, just like Superman was in the original Flashpoint story. However, she soon gets her Kryptonian suit and defends the planet from Zod, who tries to terraform the Earth, the same way he did in Man of Steel. And he attempted to do it in Barry Allen's home universe at that time. And so therefore, Sasha Cale, Supergirl, who doesn't know who Superman is, as she's likely the only surviving Kryptonian to be raised on Earth in her universe. So But the universe that Barry Allen travels to in The Flash features various similarities and differences to his home reality. For instance, Barry looks physically the same, while Henry Cavill's Superman and Ben Affleck's Batman don't even fucking exist. Instead, Michael Keaton's Batman is a veteran vigilante, old guy, he's just a vet. He's been doing it, much like Thomas Wayne was in Flashpoint, and it sucks, but it is what it is. But hey, Michael Keaton's Batman, he's a veteran vigilante. Supergirl is only beginning her career as a superhero still. Meanwhile, Kal-El may have died as a baby during Krypton's destruction in this universe, and Supergirl may have been too unlucky to have had a peaceful upbringing on Earth, so she didn't get to land in the Kent's farm and get raised by Martha and what's his name. So she didn't get that nice lifestyle, right? With a non-meta human Barry Allen, right? So in this universe, Barry Allen's not Flash, so that we got two Barry Allens, two Ezra Millers, but just one Flash and one just Barry Allen. So then he's a novice. We got the novice Supergirl and the old Batman, and the Flash's new universe is definitely a combination of past, present, and future. But it also means that the events of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice and Justice League never happened in this universe. It suggests that other metahumans may also be completely different or absent altogether. And this is sort of how they've made it blend into the new reboot of the DC universe, and why they changed the ending to this movie. Perhaps Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Cyborg don't exist, or perhaps they're indistinguishable from other original selves. But what's for certain is that Superman won't be there and become Earth's savior, leaving that spot for Supergirl. Henry Cavill won't be returning as Superman in any DC universe. Henry Cavill has been confirmed to be leaving Superman behind after his cameo in Black Adam. That was it. After Sasha Calle's Supergirl fills the role of Flash's Kryptonian hero, another actor will be cast to play the Man of Steel in James Gunn and Peter Safran's DC universe in the new Superman movie, where the all-new, brand-new Superman will debut in Superman Legacy, written and directed by James Gunn himself. Although there are multiple DC universes coexisting in parallel, including Matt Reeves' The Batman continuity and Todd Phillips' Joker universe. Those are still going on. And DC will move on from Henry Cavill's Superman and shift the focus on DCU's new version of the hero. So as for Sasha Calle's Supergirl, it's possible that she will be incorporated into the DC universe to star in Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. That's the next movie that they're going to do with Supergirl. After all, she hails from a different universe than the original DCEU and represents a fresh start for Krypton on the big screen. Otherwise, The Flash might mark the end of the DCEU's version of Krypton, and the DCU might get introduced, both a new Superman and a new Supergirl that could lead the franchise together as a team in harmony, because that's how, that's how it would be, right? Zod, interesting. Like, why is Zod here? But it's explained, I think, as explained. Both trailers, we got Barry Allen's confessions about breaking the universe, are closely followed by shots of Zod, and so he's also featured using the same terraforming machine thing that he had in Man of Steel. We see him using that, so basically implying that Zod's original campaign will still be in effect in this sort of warped reality, and is likely happening due to the absence of Superman, who was heavily teased as being dead in this new timeline. So this would also explain Batman and the Flash's needing Supergirl's help. So that's why Zod's here. Based on the framing in the Flash trailer, Zod's return seems to be directly tied to the Flash's actions and the collision of realities. Somehow this version of Zod likely didn't face the same obstacles like Henry Cavill's Superman. Instead, events have likely been altered, which ultimately served as the as Zod's better, in comparison to the original events seen in Man of Steel. So how Barry Allen going back in time leads to Zod's return. Basically it stands, in almost certainty that Barry Allen's attempting to save his mother in the past will create a cascade of unfortunate events that lead to no Superman and subsequently General Zod's arrival on Earth, virtually unopposed. The domino effect will begin, and Barry Allen will, very similar, in fashion to the original DC Comics of Flashpoint. Hopefully we'll get, something. And as such, it looks as though Barry Allen and his new allies will have quite the battle ahead of them to restore the timeline when the Flash releases June 16th. So we don't have much longer to wait. But it's going to be dope. I think we got a lot to yes, it does sound dope. So listen, guys, Stu, I know you got to bounce, man. I'm gonna have to cut it, but we'll be back Monday as always, guys. Every Monday, every Saturday, every Wednesday, 7 p.m. At least that's what we're doing right now. That's how it is. So unless you hear different, that's what it is. That's where we'll be. That's how we getting down. So we'll see you guys Monday. Have a great weekend. Stu, be safe out there. And
Will
you
do.
know how to. Peace.
Peace.